The African American Museum of Southern Arizona is tucked away in the Student Union building on the campus of the University of Arizona. It's not large. In fact, all the displays fit into one room. But that room has a wealth of information.
There's an African American man that came here in the 1500s. He was a slave, enslaved African. Well, they called him Esteban.
I received a special tour from Museum Executive Director Beverley, Elliott.
We actually have a park that's called Esteban Park that African American women in the 1920s and 30s asked the city of Tucson, can we use this property so our children have a place to play, because it was segregated at that time. So we're very proud that Esteban was one of the first.
There are all sorts of displays honoring African Americans who have influenced the city of Tucson and the southern end of the Grand Canyon State.
This is a gentleman, his name is Albert Randall. When he served at Davis-Monthan Air Force Base, he was a top gun. If you see a military person, first responder, police officer, sheriff, and they have an American flag on their sleeve, it's because of Albert Randall. And this is Quincy Douglas. We have a library named after her, Quincy Douglas Library, as well as a senior center that's named after her. She was the very first African-American woman to be published in the state of Arizona. You want to hear about Fred Snowden? Or?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Of course I wanted to hear about Fred Snowden. He's the whole reason I made this trip to Tucson.
My father is a historical figure.
I needed to find out more about the first African-American head coach hired at a major university. I wanted to find out more about the man known as the Fox.
Fred the Fox.
Sly as a fox.
Welcome to BYU Radio's Big Stories, telling the amazing and inspiring tales from the Big 12 and beyond. I'm your host, Cleon Wall. Our episode, Fred Snowden, the fantastic Mr. Fox. Stacey Snowden was rummaging through her father's stuff one day, finding old photos of Fred for a future documentary film.
I went and dug through boxes and pulled out my parents' wedding album, which, people don't really pull that out and look at that too often. So I'm pulling it out, I'm looking through, and in the very back of it was this envelope, and it said, "My manuscript partial." And I thought, what is this? I've never seen this. I opened it. And that was my dad's story.
In that story, Fred detailed recollections of his early life in Alabama.
I was aware of the, Jim Crow days and the racism that went on in the South. But to hear him describe the racism and the things that he experienced was stunning to me, because they were my father's words. And the story was like, my grandfather and I would go into the city to get an ice cream. That was the story. And then he would just mention, as he's telling this story, that of course at that time they'd be enjoying walking down the street. But if white people were coming along walking down the street, they had to step off of the sidewalk and go get in the middle of the street to not disturb their path. But he told those stories as if, just very matter-of-factly, this is just how it was. This is just what happened. He didn't express any anger about it. He didn't dwell on it.
Stacey then read her father's account of taking a train to Detroit. Some of Fred's family members had already moved to the Motor City, looking to start a new life.
He was maybe about 7 years old, and he had his one little suitcase, and he had a box of food. He had fried chicken and chocolate cake in this box, and he's on this train ride from Bruton, Alabama to Detroit by himself. Along that train ride, there was a white man on the train with him, and I guess he was kind of hungry. And he says, whatever you have in that box, young man, that sure does smell good. And my dad said, well, I'll share it with you. And he said, okay, you know what? I'd appreciate that. You share that with me. I'm going to make sure that you have a safe journey all along this path to Detroit. And that's what he did. My father was a very talented athlete. He played baseball and he played basketball in high school and in college. In fact, baseball was really his sport. When he was playing baseball, one of his best friends and his teammates was just like, Fred, you're just so good. You're so slick. You figure out everything to do out here on the field. I mean, you're sly as a fox. You're like Fox out there. And it stuck.
The Fox was so good at baseball that he was eventually drafted by his hometown Detroit Tigers.
His passion was to go into coaching. That was really his passion. I mean, very smart man, couple of degrees, has a master's degree, but he wanted to teach and to coach and to mentor, which is why he had no desire to go into the farm system with the Tigers and play professional sports and go up those ranks.
After graduating from Wayne State University, Fred returned to his alma mater, Detroit Northwestern High School.
My father was about mentoring and protecting young people. And when he was coaching at Northwestern, that's when the 67 riots in Detroit took place. And my father got the keys to the school, the keys to the gym. He and his other coaches and other faculty literally went out into the streets of Detroit and just started rounding up youth, just rounding up kids that went to the school that, they didn't want them out in the streets to have to come into contact with the National Guard and have any issues. Now, what's extra kind of fun about that is that my father taught and was very close to the creator of Motown and many of the artists of Motown. And so they spent their time in the gym kind of entertaining each other while these riots were going on. But again, he was about protecting and mentoring, and that's what he did throughout his career.
Snowden was also a pretty good basketball coach. His varsity club won 87 games and only lost 7 times. And that's when he was offered a job to become an assistant coach at the University of Michigan.
He was hesitant about it. He was kind of a celebrity in Detroit, and he really didn't want to be too far from the youth that depended on him. So the opportunity came up. My mother said, this is really a great opportunity. I think that you need to do this. But we did not move from Detroit to Ann Arbor. My dad commuted from Detroit to Ann Arbor every day because he still wanted to be there and be in the city and be available to the youth that he loves so much.
Well, first time I met Coach Snowden was when he was named the assistant coach at the University of Michigan.
Bob Elliott was an Ann Arbor high school basketball star who lived right across the street from the Wolverines athletic facilities.
I'm hanging around campus, trying to play ball with the Michigan players. That's how you always got better, play with people that are older and bigger than you. And that's when I first met him. My dad and mom have degrees from the University of Michigan. My dad was a hometown kid.
And the Elliott family attended plenty of Michigan basketball games when Dave Strack was the head coach.
When I was in elementary school, and if he saw my dad buying tickets, he'd come downstairs and tap me on my head, Dr. Elliott. I got to have Bobby when he's ready to play for me.
But Coach Strack left the Michigan basketball bench and eventually accepted a job as Michigan's assistant athletic director. In 1972, Strack left Michigan to become the AD at the University of Arizona. One of Strack's first duties was to hire a head basketball coach, and he was good friends with the Fox.
My dad actually wasn't his first choice. He had because this was a controversial hire. So other coaches turned him down, and then he went to my dad. To hear him describe the whole interview process is really interesting because he was very cognizant of being a Black man going through this process. There were things that he talked about that he just, what color shirt should I wear? Interviews goes well, goes back to Detroit. He's accepted the job. He wakes up in the middle of the night, wee hours, and he just changed his mind, decided he didn't want to do it. And so he and my mom were up all night, all wee hours discussing this. And he said, I just don't know if I want to take you guys away from all that you know here in Detroit. We had a wonderful life there. We had a beautiful home. He was so involved with the community. A lot of our family was there. And he said, I don't know if I want to take you away from that. Is this, the right decision? He said, I'm going to call Dave Strack and tell him I've changed my mind. And my mom said, no, you're not going to do that. This is really a wonderful opportunity for you. You have a chance to make history, to be the first. Someone's got to be the first. It might as well be you.
The president of the University of Arizona at that time was a guy named John Schaefer. Dr. Schaefer told me that he just felt that with all the Black athletes showing up on these games, why is there not a Black head coach? Dr. Schaefer said it was the right time, it was the right decision.
Fred Snowden's hiring made him the first Black head basketball coach at a major university. 2 years prior, Will Robinson, Another former Detroit high school coach was the first African-American hired as a head coach at Illinois State.
Coach Will was the first Division I, yes. But not being at a major university, you're not going to get the kind of publicity. You're not going to be able to raise the kind of funds for a university that you can do at a major university compared to just being an independent. I think that was the difference. When Coach Snowden got that job at a major university, it unlocked the ability for other black coaches to coach at a major university where you have more exposure, TV games, you have, again, just the fundraising. Because in the end, it comes down to money.
One of Coach Snowden's first recruits was Bob Elliott.
Most coaches have a board where they say, here are your top recruits that you're going to go after. The top name on the list was mine. And so I guess I was in Coach's wish list from day one, and he was in mine. You know, it was a chance to go out west and create history. I could have gone to Michigan. It would have been like 70% of our classmates at Pioneer High. You go across the street and go to the college there. But it was something about Coach Snowden to come out here, as he said, and make history.
Snowden did make history on and off the court, but racism also reared its ugly head. Coming up next, the Fox outfoxes detractors on the road to success. This is the Big Stories Podcast from BYU Radio. Hey everyone, Cleon Wall here again. I'm inviting you to check out another BYU Radio podcast. It's called Deep Blue. It's where you get the true stories of BYU athletes and coaches from their own mouths. It's hosted by my colleague, Jason Shepard. Last season, they had great interviews on Deep Blue, including Cougar quarterback Gary Bohannon. He teared up quite a bit talking about his son and what it means for his boy to watch his dad play. Also, BYU swimmer Jordan Tiffany, who quit swimming due to mental health struggles. He talked about how he was able to get back in the pool again. More great conversations for season number 3. BYU running back Hinckley Rapati will talk about his tear-filled journey to BYU. Former BYU tight end Chad Lewis, he's going to reflect back on that special 1996 BYU football season. And BYU basketball players Richie Saunders and Fousseyni Traore discuss their unique relationship. It started way before they got to BYU. Please subscribe and listen to Deep Blue with Jason Shepard wherever you get podcasts, or check it out on the BYU Radio app. Welcome back to the BYU Radio Big Stories podcast episode, Fred Snowden, the fantastic Mr. Fox. Fred Snowden's hiring as University of Arizona head basketball coach was a landmark decision in 1972. Snowden, nicknamed the Fox in high school, was the first ever African-American basketball coach at a major university. Snowden initially accepted the job and then was going to reject the position. Snowden's daughter, Stacey, said her mother, Maya, convinced him otherwise.
And so my mom really talked him into it. This is really a wonderful opportunity for you. You know, you have a chance to make history, to be the first. Someone's got to be the first. It might as well be you. You've wanted a head coaching job. You've worked for this your whole life. You deserve this. We will be okay. We will make the adjustments we need to make, and we'll be okay. But you deserve this. You have to do it. And so then he went on and did it.
Snowden's task was not going to be an easy one. The Wildcats had suffered through 3 straight losing campaigns, including a 6-20 record in the 71-72 season.
Coach comes in and starts 5 freshmen. The year before I got here, they're called the Kitty Corps.
Snowden also had to drum up support for his Kitty Corps, according to former Wildcats basketball player Bob Elliott.
We've had people tell us stories that they were like in a laundromat, and Coach Snowden would walk up to them, "Hey, I'm Coach Snowden. I'm the new basketball coach at University of Arizona. I want you to come out here and watch our guys play."
He went to schools. They had the Greyhound dog races. He went there. Any place and every place he could go. Grocery stores. He'd go in the grocery store and start talking to people, introducing himself, telling them who he was. And, you know, it's going to be great. You got to come see these games, you know, and just really built this excitement. I mean, and he told people, and we're going to win. We're going to win from the start.
And they did win. Behind future NBA players Eric Money and Al Fleming, the Cats went 16-10 and finished second in the Western Athletic Conference. Fellow future NBA player Bob the Birdman Elliott joined the team the following year, and the Cats improved to 19-7. Even though Arizona was winning, all was not well with the Cats' head basketball coach.
Tucson was just so different, not a diverse place at all. The African-American community there was less than 1%.
Coach tried to buy a house, and there's a situation called redlining. Redlining, for those that don't know, is where there's certain parts of a city where your CC&Rs say certain people can't live in this neighborhood. And he tried to buy a house in a neighborhood that the neighbor said no, because you're black.
But my mother knew that they had houses they were building that were available. So she sent one of her close friends who happened to be blonde and blue-eyed. And they said, oh, yes, you can have any of these homes that you want. My mother sent another friend who was also white. Same thing with her. But they turned us down. My parents ended up suing them, and they won. And then my parents said, we have no interest in having a house from you, but we're doing this to set a precedence here so that you will think twice and this won't happen to someone else. So finally, a builder who was excited about potentially having some winning basketball built a house for my parents. And then when they built that house, they had to end up getting the CCs and Rs changed for the community because at that time, it said no blacks allowed.
So one day at practice, coach is on one. I mean, he's in the worst mood you could ever think of. And so he says, all right, everybody take 15. So I go up to him and say, Coach, what's the deal? He said, you want to know what the deal is, Bobby? You want to know what the deal is? Come upstairs with me to my office. Okay, Coach, let's go upstairs. And he said, sit behind my desk. He had a real nice desk. I'm sitting here like, okay, this kind of nice, Coach. He said, no, open up that bottom right drawer. All hate mail. N-word, I will shoot you with your white shoes on. N-word, blah, blah, blah. He told me, you cannot tell anyone about what you just found out. When I want to say it, if I want to say it, I will be the one to tell it.
The death threats were just, this went on for years. They always threatened they were going to set our house on fire. They were going to blow it up. I evacuated my house so many times, I don't even remember.
Her first year, she probably spent more days in a hotel than in their house because of death threats and bomb threats. We've had some people come through here that went to school with her, like in elementary school, and they remember the fact that we could go out on the playground during recess. Stacey had to stay in the room because of a death threat or a kidnapping threat.
These were stunning things. When I got to Tucson, it was really the first time I'd heard the N-word. And it's because I was being called it all the time, and so was my father. My father's first many years of coaching, other coaches and even the officials would not give him the respect to refer to him by his name. They always called him the N-word.
The Fox and his family remained resilient.
He said, we're going to stick this out. We'll be okay. We'll find a way. Worse things have happened. He had seen or witnessed worse things in his early days in Alabama. So he said, no, we have to do this. Someone has to be the first. I am the first, and I'm going to ride this out so I'm not the last.
Coach Snowden won over a lot of fans by winning a lot of games.
When he first started coaching there, they were playing in this small gym called Bear Down. When they started winning, Bear Down was filled to capacity. And I can remember people wanting to see this and be around this, so much so that they lined the streets all around that Bear Down gym just so they could hear the sounds. And if they heard a lot of cheering, they knew the team was winning.
In 1973, the team moved over to the brand new McHale Center, which held over 14,000 fans.
We were the first ones, our class, to only play in McHale Center. It was packed, it was loud, it was crazy. Coach Snowden started Tucson as a basketball town. His second year here, he was named Man of the Year in Tucson, the first black to be named Man of the Year in Tucson. So a lot of people liked what he had done. He brought a love for basketball and gave everybody in his town something to want to watch.
He was winning, and he was bringing national recognition to Arizona basketball. So he developed a majority of a fan base that just loved and adored him.
In 1976, the Cats clawed their way to the top of the WAC and were invited to the NCAA tournament.
What was extra special about that is that first round game, my father was coaching against his very dear friend, John Thompson. John Thompson was a coach at Georgetown. My dad and John were very, very close. And in fact, in those early days, the phone would ring at night, kind of late, and my mom wouldn't even answer it. She'd yell and say, "Fred, it's John," because he would always call my dad. And I remember they would call each other. They were going through similar things with the racism and all that difficulty. So it was ironic that in '76, NC2A tournament, first Black head coaches to ever coach in the tournament were Fred Snowden and John Thompson coaching against each other in that first round game. And so my dad won, Arizona won, and that also made my dad, the first Black coach to ever win an NC2A tournament game.
You don't realize the impact maybe till later on you get older, but that was huge.
Next up was UNLV.
That UNLV game, they took us to the Elite Eight, 114 to 109. No 24-second clock and no three.
Arizona eventually fell to UCLA in the Elite Eight. But Coach Snowden was a popular guy in America's bicentennial year.
My dad's on the cover of magazines, national magazines, Black magazines, Ebony and Sport Magazine and Jet Magazine. He's articles everywhere and so forth.
He used to talk about how when he was at Detroit Northwestern, he had the Four Tops and the Temptations playing for him. We're like, yeah, coach, whatever. Okay. We're playing UNLV at UNLV. Who walks in the locker room? The Four Tops and the Temps. Fox, we told you, you come here, we're here for you. I'm like, well, I guess that one was true.
He got so many coaching offers. He got coaching offers basically every year. And my father was loyal, very, very loyal. So he was extremely loyal to Dave Strack and to the university, and just turned down these actually much more lucrative opportunities. So this was it was wonderful for my dad and for our family, and it was great for the university and great for Tucson.
I remember seeing Bob and that team play UNLV and UCLA to make it to the Elite Eight.
This is Joe Nehls.
I was still in high school, senior in high school, and I saw him. I'm like, wow. And then I got a call, would you want to come to the University of Arizona for a recruiting visit? I'm like, sure.
Nehls joined Bob and Coach Snowden the next season.
Coach was a motivator. He would like to sit there and talk to you and get you to get all geeked up and wired up to play. As one guy said, Coach could sell you beach property in Yuma, Arizona.
Yeah, he was a good talker. I didn't have the same relationship that Bob did. It was more player-coach for me. But he was all business. Did like the going to class and educating yourself. And, the practices were very punctual. If you were late, a couple guys that Bob played with didn't come on time, didn't give an effort, and they were kicked out of practice. So he was pretty much all business.
In Joe's first season and Bob's final campaign, the Cats finished second in the WAC and lost in the opening round of the NCAA tournament to Southern Illinois.
I mean, Coach Snowden recruited some top talent, and I was a freshman when Bob's crew was a senior, and they were very good. It was big bodies, athletic, and then all of a sudden things changed. Smaller centers, smaller forwards, not as athletic. Things changed, so they slowly started to go downhill.
As Bob played in the NBA, he watched from afar as his alma mater kept winning fewer and fewer games. At the end of the 1982 season, Arizona won 9 games after transitioning to the Pac-10 conference. That's when the Fox decided to resign.
So he spent another year there as an associate athletic director and then moved on.
He moved on from coaching basketball altogether. He broadcasted some games and also scouted for the LA Lakers and LA Clippers, but those were just part-time gigs after moving to Southern California.
He took a job with Baskin-Robbins Corporate. He was a vice president there of Urban Affairs and Development, which put him back into the root of what was so important to him. dealing with the inner city, dealing with the community, building a minority franchise program for Baskin-Robbins.
Fred held a similar position at Food for Less.
He had also developed a program to save LA Unified School District's sports programs. They were having monetary issues and they were going to eliminate the sports programs. So my father got his company to put, I believe it was $10 million into the sports program to save it at that time. So he was being honored in Washington, D.C. at the White House by President Clinton. And he went there for this honor, and that's where he actually passed away. It's devastating.
Fred Snowden was only 57.
They had a funeral in McHale Center.
Half the stadium was full, which I was kind of surprised because he did so much for Tucson and Arizona basketball. He started Arizona basketball. So how revered was he? Should have been a lot more people at McHale Center for that goodbye. I didn't realize that his life was threatened. Bob told me that at, I think, Coach Snowden's funeral. And I had no idea. He kept that very close to the vest. And I wish I would have known it. I've been a little more sympathetic to what he was going through, but I had no idea.
In 2023, over 50 years after Coach Snowden was hired as basketball coach in the McHale Center Open, Stacey Snowden was invited back to Tucson to talk about her dad with Bob Elliott.
I was so humbled that we filled up a theater of people coming to, hear me talk about him and hear his players talk about him, and different people from the community from all walks of life that my father interacted with that have these stories of how he changed their lives.
Beverley Elliott, Bob's wife, and the executive director of the African American Museum of Southern Arizona also asked Stacey if they could do a feature exhibit on Fred the Fox.
I didn't want to put something in here about her dad without her knowing it. So when I talked to her, she said, "What do you want? What can I send you?" And so I said, "Well, you send me what you think your dad would want to represent him, and you to represent your family and his time here and his time afterwards." And so she sent us this couple of huge boxes of items.
Beverley proudly showed off some of the items sent to the museum.
You can see there that Stacey, his daughter, as well as Mrs. Snowden. There he is with Danny Thomas, the founder of St. Jude's. There he is with Jesse Jackson with Operation Push, Nelson Mandela. So there were some pretty impressive people that he shared his life with and his family with.
It's absolutely amazing. I mean, what Bob and his wife, Elliott, have done for them to have put together this museum, it leaves me almost speechless. My father would be so proud of this.
Stacey wants more people to discover her father's legacy because he was more than the first African-American basketball coach at a major university.
I get stories from people still to this day that my father changed the trajectory of their lives. That, they were a high school student, they were a little bit lost. They had an interaction with my father. He followed through with them, he followed them, he helped them, and their lives turned out great. And that's an incredible legacy.
Fred Snowden, the Fantastic Mr. Fox, was produced and written by Whitney Sheffield and Cleon Wall. Music and post-production by Finn Morrison. Make sure you watch BYUTV's Big Stories by logging on to BYUSN.com. Big Stories is a production of BYU Radio.